was in grade 2 when I first dreamed of writing a book.
Ah,
uh,
beautiful.
yeah, so I had a teacher in grade 4. She was inspiring, and I really told myself, oh, one day. And finally, in secondary 5, I remember in my book, the book at the end of the Sec 5 that everyone writes in it. And I had this teacher, and she wrote to me, wherever you go, I hope that your love for the French language will always find a way, So when I wrote my book and I published it, I wrote her a little a little message saying, "Hey, well, it did." So she was really happy and supportive as always. So
Why knowledge matters. Welcome. I'm Yannick, your host, and now joining me, Noémie Jacob. Noémie Jacob is an author of the book L'Empreinte, published by edition Percé. I'm so pleased to have you here on the show, Noémie, to discuss your book published in 2023 in June about, really something that is really close to my heart too, but I also, of course, as I read your biography, also close to your heart. So welcome, Noémie. Such a pleasure.
thank you, Yannick. It's a pleasure for me too. I'm grateful.
So let's start. First and foremost, in one sentence, who is Noémie Jacob?
Okay, so I could say I am a mother, I am a wife, I am passionate about traveling, education, anthropology. So that sums it.
That's beautiful. And I actually, it's worthwhile mentioning that you are actually a new mother, right? Your kid William, he's very young, so I really appreciate that. I think we being a parent is something, and in my view, the most important purpose and responsibility that you can take on. So congratulations for that. Really,
Thank
that's
you.
truly a gift for us.
It is.
So yeah, imagine, and you wrote it basically almost like it published a little bit before, and then you ultimately gave birth. So
Yeah, so
chapeau.
I was pregnant when I did the big part of the job.
Yeah, imagine. So tell us a little bit, what made you write the book in the first place?
It's a bit of a lot of things actually. So, first of all, I had a dream. This is how it all started. But of course, it started with me living here up north. So, I had traveled a little bit around the world before. I've been to India, to South America, I've been to Europe, to the west of Canada, and even the east. But really, when I moved up here, because we live on a reservation. So this is where a lot of things took place in my life, change, and I guess that made me dream about this. So this is how I came to write that book.
It's really beautiful, but it's also really interesting because a lot of people actually have, if they are in childhood, let's say, they might have a dream of one day writing a book, but it's a whole other game of actually writing it, right? So it's one thing of dreaming and having amazing dreams, but it's another thing to actually executing and working towards that dream. So really congratulations on that, because we
Thank you.
all know how hard it is, writing a book. Like imagine we have like these amazing ideas. Let's say we are under the shower, right? We are perfect in the zone. It's just floating perfect. And then we want to, sit down, write it on a paper, and it's completely different, right? So it's really hard actually to get into this flow, right? And to write it. So tell us a little bit, how did you go about writing the book? Um, in really practical terms.
Yeah. So the first, I say I wrote like the main part of the book in 2 weeks. Every day I was like working on it 3 hours, like nonstop, like writing and almost not breathing, just like writing as fast as I could because I had a lot of ideas and I didn't want to lose them. So of course the structure and everything was not perfect, but at least I had my main idea. and it was all handmade. After that, I transcribed everything on the computer, and this is where the like the structural process started. So I had to review all the syntax, all my sentences, the order of my ideas, and then I was struggling with finding an ending to the book. So this took long. This took like I had corrected the book a couple of times before I came up with my ending. So it's really a process of patience and hard work, because you have to correct a lot, and sometimes you have to take breaks, to not look at your text for a couple of weeks sometimes, and then after to go back to it, just to not be into it too much, because you won't see you won't see anymore. So that's how I was able to write the book.
To really to get perspective, right? Because
Yeah,
sometimes we really get cut off with just seeing the trees and we don't see the forest anymore.
yeah,
So
totally. Yeah,
that's really important. But just the fact that you really push through, because imagine what it takes and the effort. And you said like 3 weeks, right? So you were really putting every day 3 hours,
yeah.
and you actually did it. And it's not an easy thing. Most people never do it, you know. I know a lot of people all the time say, they want to do this and that, but they never do it. Really, never do it. And to really get to this point and actually publish it, finishing it, like, wow, that must be really a relief. So, how long did it take? So, when did it like your idea came into your head? When was it? And until the publishing, what is roughly speaking?
I'd say 3 years, because it's when I moved here in Nemska, so 2021, and I published it in 2023, like almost 3 years. Yeah, everything. It's a long process, but it could have been shorter. It could have been longer. It's just I think I was not ready to submit it to the publisher before I was until like I was completely sure of my book. So that's the thing.
I think also you are extremely critical with yourself too,
Yes.
and I think that sometimes can also come into your way, but it's all about the process and
Mm.
imagine like the personal growth you went through. I imagine you are not the same person today than you were three
No, that's true.
years ago.
Yeah, yeah. Well, actually, let's be honest, Yannick. To take 3 hours of my day every day, the fact that we live here up north, it's a completely different lifestyle. So it allowed me to take that time. And also, I'd say that during these 3 years, as you said, I've changed a lot. So it made me um, see my book through other eyes. And also, it was a little hard to be sure that I was willing to publish it, consider the fact that it's talking about Indigenous people, and I am not Indigenous. So this is all questions that made me wait, made me consider, do I publish it or not? So it's all that.
And you actually also mentioned in your book, it's very sensitive. It's a very sensitive topic, and you went, in my view, in a very respectful way, actually. And you have a lot of really dear friends here who are indigenous, and you learn from them. They took you basically, so to say, under their wings, right? One is, I think, William Wapachi, right? And Emma, so they really.
Yeah, so of course, I went to talk to them before I wrote the book, and I went to see their opinions, and I was wondering like what they were thinking about that and how would it be received, because I didn't want to insult anyone. And the cultural appropriation is a thing. It's very important to me to not like disrespect anyone, and that's why I spoke to everyone. And something I really liked about, like, when I spoke to my friend, she said, like, every indigenous would dream about this perspective, because I wrote a fictional book, and of course it's impossible, but she said every indigenous probably has already dreamed about that. So I feel it's interesting that you put it there, because it's a way to allow us to dream about something that could have been. So this is where I decided, like, okay, I will go. I will try it, and we'll see.
I really also think we have to mention also the courage, because it takes a lot of courage, and especially in the environment that we went through, especially the past, let's say 7 8 years, where cancel culture, whatever you saw like some people, they were just looking for canceling people because they had some different views, right? And
Hmm.
that's obviously also very problematic in in any way, I think, because diversity is all about the fact that we are all different, we all have different perspective, but ultimately this diversity ultimately brings us together because we can learn from each other, right?
Hmm.
And I think you're a perfect example of doing this by ultimately becoming almost like I would say, an outsider ambassador of this beautiful culture and this beautiful way of living right in the north, because it's very different and it's very very precious. I mean, too, that's how I met you.
Hmm.
I came like about 3 years ago, for almost 3 years now, came to this land, and I was the same. I always had dreams. I had three dreams, and one of my dreams was always, and I'm always very open also to my indigenous people, because I treat them the same as I treat my white, my black, my yellow friends, because I consider them equal. So
Hmm.
I'm not talking somehow, differently, to them, and for me too, it was a dream when I was a little kid to one day, live in North America among the First Nations, So that's wonderful, and to really contribute to the knowledge, and to also be so vulnerable, because it's about imagination, about your dreams, right? So how did this all come together? Were you always, when you were a little kid, were you always a dreamer?
I was in grade two when I first dreamed of writing a book. uh,
Beautiful.
yeah, so I had a teacher in grade four. She was inspiring, and I really told myself, oh, one day. And finally, in secondary five, I remember in my book, the book at the end of the sec five that everyone writes in it, and I had this teacher, and she wrote to me, wherever you go, I hope that your love for the French language will always find a way, So when I wrote my book and I published it, I wrote her a little a little message saying, "Hey, well, it did." So she was really happy and supportive as always. So mm.
Yeah, I have to say, while writing the book, I was really impressed about like the way you write, about your knowledge of French, and just the fact that it really seemed like a pro was writing it, because it's your first book, right? And
Mhm.
obviously, whatever we do, we always get better at some point. But it seems as if you already have written, more books.
Well, I have to say, it's my first published book. I wrote a lot of others, a lot of others. Eventually, probably I will publish them. I'm not in a hurry for that because this one was very important for me. So this is why I chose this one. But another reason I'd say about my writing. I've always loved French. I've studied in literature, French education, and of course, I'm still really into reading old classics. Everything that really it's like more a metaphoric language. This is what I like best. So this is what I tried to put in the book, but I'm not a pro. I'm just trying. Let's
Well,
say it
I
like that.
think really you're getting there. I think that's all about, because it's like about Michael Jordan or whatever. Everyone starts somewhere, and the fact
Mhm.
that you have this passion, this determination, it really really shows that. Wow, I think we can just simply look forward for much more to come. But now let's just go back a little bit and to just give us a brief overview of the book, you
Mhm.
know just give us the team and how it starts.
Okay, so it's simple. It's just what if colonization wouldn't have worked? So it's how they would have done that and what would have happened. So that's why I say it's a fiction, because of course this is not how it worked. um, what was really important to me when I wrote the book is that I wanted to stay in the non-native voice. I didn't want to speak for a Cree, because it's about the Cree. Of course, I chose this nation. So this is why the main character is a non-native. Well, in her mind, because of course, if you read the book, you know that she is in the body of a native, but she's the non-native one. So that's why I wanted to say, because you said earlier that I'm an ambassador, but I don't consider myself like that. I consider myself as a witness. All my time I spent in the community, this is how I wrote the book, because I was participating to every cultural event. I wanted to see how they would do things. I wanted to participate, or here how we learn, it's only by looking people doing it over and over again. So I had a lot of, for example, sewing teacher who taught me how to do moccasins, mittens, and this is what I try to to write in the book. But I feel it's so different from how you feel it, because I cannot, for example, transmit the smell of the moose hide, or the texture of a lot of things. But I tried to put all the love that I have, and all the, because it's a way of life so different, and it's hard to explain. So I just tried to put it in the book, and hopefully people will learn how it looks like today, how maybe it looked before, because we don't know exactly how it was before. But yeah, so this is mainly the book, and at the end we see what life could have looked like without colonization. So it's all hypothetical.
It is also very nice that you mentioned this because, Emma too. She showed me, she taught me, how to, put together like the moose hide gloves, the
Yeah.
mini ones, and so it was the very first time. Obviously, I had no clue, but just the fact that she was so patient, she was never ever like, not even words. She always modeled it, in such a nice way, and I
Hmm.
felt obviously very, you know, uh, to some extent helpless, right? But she was so kind, and it was really, it showed me, wow, just the generosity that she just has, and just the patience, just the fact that she takes the time. So I can, to some extent, relate what you're saying to this. So it's really quite something. So what were the major challenges that you faced while writing the book?
The first one was patience, because I feel that when you have such an idea that is really, because it was alive inside of me, it was burning. I wanted to publish it right away, like I wanted to share it, but I really had to go step by step. I really had to talk to people. I really had to make sure, like it, like my other friends, they could read it, and what's your opinion, would you change that, how would you, like, literally all the sentences of this book has been examined to make sure that, you know as more as I could, I wouldn't like offend, and I wouldn't, say something that didn't have his place. So it's a lot of work. It's you have to consider the fact that, like, you're throwing yourself in something completely unknown. But so because of that, I feel you need to be very humble too. So some people will like it, some people won't, but it's okay. I did it with all my heart, and the only reason why I published that book is really to to share to share something, um, to grab people's interest, and to make people realize that there's more than what we know, more than what, like, modern society tries to make us know, so make us believe, sorry. um, yeah, so you have to be patient, and you have to think about a lot of things before publishing. That's what that those were the main challenges for me.
But it's also a personal journey actually that you undertook because you went traveling, 2015, different places all over the world, and then ultimately came home and then after graduating, I think you decided to go and live among the Cris, specifically in the Cree nation of Nemska. How did this come about?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, first of all, without even knowing it, the first trip I ever took was like a 4 months backpack, and I arrived in Peru. And without knowing it, I was in a indigenous community, and this is where like my eyes opened for real for the first time. I was like, okay, there's another way of living. Like it's not only in the book; it's in the real life, you know. So I began to be very curious about like they are healing themselves with plants, and they are like living with the mother earth. That's they call it pachamama. So this is exactly when everything started. So later on I was at school. COVID happened, and my boyfriend at the time, now he's my husband, but he got an opportunity to be a policeman here. So he was not sure, and I was like, "Yes, let's go." And he was like, "You really want to come with me?" I was so happy. So we came here. We first were in Waskaganish. So this is the first community. We lived here for about 10 months. And then after we moved to Nemska because he had the chance to transfer. Nemaska, we moved here because it was smaller and we found people more talkative, friendly, so this is why we wanted to be here, and we fell in love with the place, of course, because we've been here since, and we're still very happy to be here. So this is how it happened.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I can testify. It's like a second home. It's like family. No
Yeah,
matter we go, you truly feel home. And I think that's something that we all, look for in life, right?
totally.
Somehow that we can relate, that we have a nice community, and it's just very touching. And obviously, I also know David, and I hear from different community members always talking very highly of him. So that's also really, really beautiful, and it's so important, especially also given the fact that he does such an amazing job. I think police officer and all these people who in public safety, they're doing a tremendous job. Without
Yes.
them, we could not enjoy the freedom, the security that we enjoy here in
Yeah.
Canada and in general in the Western
Mm.
world. Coffee or tea?
Well, tea, but after my trip to India, chai tea.
Very good. Very good. Very good. Very good. Tell us why you found, because you also mentioned this, somehow almost like it changed. You said that you changed the way you see the world. It's not just what you have experienced, but you completely somehow you found almost like a second home here.
So I feel the Cree communities, it's all about, um, I don't know how to say it, like slow and stillness. Life is not about rushing all the time, and life is not about transporting yourself to the future all the time. It's really about admiring. Well, Yannick, we open the door. We're outside in on the land, like the bushes right behind our house. It's a very beautiful way to calm down and to go back to the source. I would say it like that, like to reflect on your life and to take the time to do whatever you need, but to take it. So that's why actually we decided to have our family here, because we think it's a very good opportunity to raise a child in a less stressful environment. Yeah. So that's how I see it.
Beautiful. Why should people read your book?
I feel it's about curiosity. So if you're curious about something that does exist, that is near us, because I mean, we're still in Canada, we're still in Quebec, but so far from us at the same time. So if you're curious, I would recommend to read the book. And also, if you're interested in knowing something different, I would recommend to read the book. So that's mostly it. And also, if you want to, I don't know, dream a little bit with me, you can read the book.
Very nice. I always tell people that Canada is the best place because you can literally travel the world within Canada itself. I mean, you have so
Totally.
many different First Nations. You have Inuit, Métis, and all these different cultures. So it's an incredible place, and especially the way you have written the book in such a sensitive and meaningful manner to really help you to activate your imagination, because imagination, as Einstein put it, right, is more powerful than knowledge, because knowledge is limited and imagination is unlimited.
Totally.
And that's why, for example, I love Nespresso coffee, because I can every single day morning I can travel to Peru or whatever, right? So it's very, very powerful. What makes you feel alive, Naomi?
I think I would say again to, well, of course, my son with his beautiful and pure innocence, my family, but really the fact that I can enjoy the stillness. Sometimes around 10 p.m., you look outside, you see the northern lights, or the morning when everything is frozen, there's no sound. This makes me feel alive.
I think that is beautiful, because what I really can tell, you're very, very simple. And I think that's where true, and as you said too, you mentioned curiosity. And actually, René Girard, he said curiosity is really the vessel or the engine of culture, right? Because this makes us really feel alive, we inquire, so this is really, really beautiful. And you're on a great path. I think the mystics too, they love simplicity, right? Because there's so much going on within yourself, but also just around, by contemplating actually nature. Wonderful. Noémie Jacob, thank you so much for your gift.
Thanks to
It's
you.
truly wonderful, and I can't wait to really further read your amazing book published by Édition Percée.
I am actually, just want to mention a little thing. I am working really hard to translate it in English. So hopefully we'll have some news soon. It would be very interesting, I think, to make it available for people here up north. So
that is beautiful. And you can actually get your book on Kindle and also as a paper book, and on Amazon, on all major distributors, obviously, in the world. And thank you so much for being on the show, Noem. It's truly a blessing and a gift.
Thank you, Yannick.
Noémie,
it was a pleasure.
Noémie Jacob. That's why knowledge matters. Make your life a masterpiece. Visit now programs.d-ykm.com.